Best Podcast Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that's changing the way businesses retain their attorneys. Go to gertzberglaw.com to learn more. While you're there, check out Cover My Six, a complete legal audit of the 6 areas that most often create or prevent business lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how we keep you safe. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
So learning from people who know how to do it the right way or a right way is so much more valuable and expedient than learning by mistakes.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. This is Best Podcast Ever, and this is a limited series that we've created called My Colossal Failure. And as the name would suggest, it's about entrepreneurs who have failed, which if you are a good entrepreneur, if you're a successful entrepreneur, you've done many times and you've done colossally. We all have those stories, and I'm no different. I have failed many times, but every entrepreneur that I know, that I admire, that's an inspiration to me, has these great stories and has these great examples that show that as successful as they look today, they never just waved a magic wand and became this way instantly. They failed over and over and over again, and usually in a massive way. And there's a good reason for that. They take risks. Entrepreneurs are wired for risk. They are prepared to make big bets. The bigger the bet, the bigger the potential failure. You end up looking stupid. You end up feeling like shit. You have a lot of explaining to do to your spouse, to your investors, to your employees. And it's jarring. A lot of times you end up in therapy. It's traumatizing, when you run out of money, when you can't make payroll, when you have to shut down a business. So what you're about to listen to is one of a handful, about a half dozen episodes that we recorded within the last couple of months that we've put together into this series called My Colossal Failure. And you're going to hear some great, great failures and challenges. Some of them aren't really failures in the sense that the entrepreneur caused the thing to happen. They are just big, giant meatballs of a challenge that ordinarily would be seemingly impossible to overcome. What I will tell you is every single person that is on this show that I interview is someone that not just bounced back, but bounced back big. Okay. I mean, these are people who run giant companies now, and who learned, who are confident today, who had to break through the imposter syndrome that a lot of us entrepreneurs have anyway, but some of us have, even bigger imposter syndromes than other people because of these failures. But you get back up and you dust yourself off, and you just keep fighting that fight, and you do it enough times, and you learn strategically enough to where success is inevitable. It's inevitable. So I hope you enjoy this episode and this entire series. I will see you guys on the other side. Thanks, folks. Mike Ferrante, for those that don't know him, you're selling yourself short, because this is a guy you need to know. He is an associate broker with Century 21 HomeStar. He's the team leader of the 21 Mike team. He's an MBA. He has dashing good looks. He has the arms and chest of Iron Man. I'm making that last part up, Mike, but you are a good looking dude. And he is the 6th in the country of all Century 21 HomeStar people for the number of units sold. That's 60,000. Mike is 6 of 60,000. My math sucks. That's why I went to law school, Mike, but I'm pretty sure that's like the top 0.1%, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just finished reading, It's called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. You ever read that book?
I have not.
Oh, it's so good. You got to read it. He did.
Jotting that down.
He's an Iron Man. He is. He graduated both Navy SEAL training. Went through Hell Week there 3 times. Ranger School, Army Ranger School, and just it does these crazy ultra marathons. And he talks about how everyone should strive to be uncommon among their peers, but then there is a subgroup of folks who aren't just uncommon, they are uncommon within the group of uncommon people. And I would say, Mike, that you fall into that group. You are the uncommon of the uncommon with statistics like that.
I'll tell you, Alex, I'm glad I'm not with you too often, because if I were, my ego would be the size of Tim Duncan, as they say.
Mike, I'm here to serve, my friend. I'm here to help. And if one way I can do it is by blowing smoke up your butt, then I'll do it. I'll do it every time. Mike, in 2019, you were number 2 in the country.
Yeah.
You're number 6 in the country. This year, both are incredible stats. I'm not going to ask you to talk about them today. I want people to go back and listen to our interview. Gosh, I guess it was probably about a year ago that we had that other interview. It is one of my favorites, and it led me to ask you to be on this episode, on this limited series, because as the folks listening at home know, I basically pulled out of our 140 plus episodes a handful of my favorite guests and my favorite entrepreneurs, folks that I know have, by becoming the entrepreneurs that they are, have had to have failed massively, right? Because you don't get to be successful unless you've tried, unless you've taken giant risks and failed in a lot of them. So with that setup, Mike, what story or stories came to mind when I called you a few weeks ago and told you I wanted you to talk about your biggest failure?
Well, so of course, my first reaction was, wow, Alex wants to talk to me because I'm a failure. And then, of course, I recentered myself and got the gist of what you were going for. But I know that you and I share that entrepreneurial spirit. And of course, I thought about it a little bit. And, you know, it's a little known fact about me. I had another business before I built this really successful business that I have now. And so the story I wanted to share with you was about a failed business. I mean, you know, actually having to grow a business and then shut it down is one of the most painful experiences you can go through. You know, I can think of some things that are more painful, but in the world of entrepreneurship, being able to say, this isn't my best use of my time, it's not working out, and to be able to admit to yourself that the thing that you grew maybe even was a mistake. Now, I'm going to backpedal on that a little bit, because, you know, as I think about these, you know, this failure and other failures and in my life, you know, those create who you are. You know, if it weren't for those experiences, you wouldn't be who you are today. So I don't want to say I regret doing it, but it was one of the most painful things I ever did. So have I teased you and tantalized you enough?
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear it. What kind of business was it?
So in another lifetime, I was a painting contractor. And I may have shared this with you, but I probably never elaborated on it. When I went to Case, I took a lot of entrepreneurship classes because I just have that in me. You know, some of us have that spirit, that thing that says, I want to go out and build my own thing. And so right out of Case, I was a salesman for a chemical company for about 7 months. And I quickly left that job to go back to my painting business, which was a summer job. And literally for 15 years, I was attempting to grow this painting business, despite the advice of the entrepreneurship classes, where my professors said, look, most successful entrepreneurs get a job, they work, they learn, they experience things, and then they really hit their stride in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. That's the best time to grow a business. Well, of course, when you're 22 years old, you know everything. And I said, I don't need that. I know how to paint. I know how to grow a business. I've got this MBA. And so 15 years, I struggled in this business. And I have to admit that there were times, I know you love when people bare their souls to you, Alex. So there were weeks when I struggled to make payroll. There were times when I couldn't make payroll, and I had to tell the guys, "Sorry, I'll pay you in a couple days." There were times when I couldn't pay my gas bill. I did that for 15 years, almost out of stubbornness. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to admit that maybe I had chosen the wrong path, and I didn't want to shut down a business. And finally, in the 15th year is when I decided, you know what, I need to do something else. And I closed down a business. And like I think you said, it's like your baby, it's your child, and to be able to say, okay, that chapter is ended. What's the next thing? That was the one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And in hindsight, I guess I consider it my biggest failure. I failed at growing a successful painting contracting business.
Mike, talk about the decision that the time period, that you decided to shut this baby down. What are you feeling at that time? What are the decision points that you're considering? What are you going through emotionally and just mentally, physically, spiritually that lead to that particular decision?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Alex, I know that we might overuse this term a little bit, but call it rock bottom. Everything you just said, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything was suffering. I was in a bad place. I wasn't taking care of myself. My living conditions weren't great. I couldn't have a healthy relationship. I had gone through a couple relationships where I wasn't able to be all in the relationship because I spent so much time working and trying to resuscitate this business. So for me, that was a very much rock bottom. And I can remember what's interesting is I can remember specific days. I can remember being at a house on the west side of Cleveland on West Drive, I think it's called, a brick house with white trim. And I remember the sun beating down on me all day. And that day, all I brought with me to drink was Coke, and I drank a 6-pack of Coke that day. I mean, isn't it amazing the details of the pain of that experience? And I remember I had to finish that job on that day, and there I am painting this house until like 8 o'clock at night, having drunk nothing but a 6-pack of Coke, and my hands shaking from the caffeine. And finally, it took like that kind of slap in the face to say, look, maybe this isn't my path.
So you hit bottom, you decide you can't do it anymore. Let's do some vitals here. How big a company was this?
Yeah, at my peak, I was running 15 painters. We were doing, I wish I could remember the dollars exactly, but I do remember I was spending between $40,000 and $50,000 a year just on paint. That was what we spent on paint. So I know that I was well over $1 million in gross business. So I thought I was onto something, but we know how the end of the story goes.
Well, and obviously this is a situation where you've got the owner of the business working in the business, not really on the business as much, right? You were painting houses while you're running a business.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, profitable?
Well, like I said, Alex, there were weeks when I couldn't make payroll and pay my gas bill. So, there were times when I'd have money in the bank and I'd say, wow, because I wasn't measuring things well either, Alex. That's kind of the moral of the story is those professors were right. I hadn't learned enough to really be an effective leader, an effective business owner. So, no, clearly I wasn't profitable because I was struggling with cash flow. If I could do it over again with the knowledge I have today, I'm sure I could have made it a profitable business, but it was a very poorly run business for the time. I was in my 20s. I was a kid,
Was it College Pro Painting?
No. My business was called Painting Enterprises. Can't even tell you how I came up with that, but it was a summer job that I turned into a full-time business.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I did College Pro for a summer and vowed never to pick up another paintbrush again because I hated it. I just hated it so much. Mike, so you did this for 15 years, right? And today you're one of the most successful real estate brokers and business leaders I know. And so is it fair to say, I'm putting my deposition hat on, is it fair to say that that you could not be as successful as you are today had you not gone through that 15-year odyssey?
I think that's a fair statement. Again, I think my mistake was waiting so long to call it. So could I have gone through half that amount of time and still be who I am today? I bet. But stubbornness, etc. It was 15 years instead of 7, let's say.
Yeah. And so I was kind of setting you up there on that question, because the follow-up is, what about those 15 years and that pain, that suffering, that anxiety, that just agitation, right? As well as the successes. I'm sure there were successes in there too. But what about those 15 years informs what happens in the 15 plus years after that?
Yeah, so I think learning from mistakes is huge, but through the process, I learned how to coordinate, uh, I guess what you might consider like the least common denominator of employees. I'm taking painters, people who, good guys. I mean, I still remember all of them by name, but I learned how to hire. I learned how to fire. I learned how to motivate people. I learned about managing money and mismanaging it and the difference and what that looks like. There's so many lessons, Alex. Gosh, we could do a whole podcast on that alone. But yeah, truth be told, there were a lot of lessons I learned that helped me run a successful business today.
Yeah. I mean, so there are folks listening to this episode who are getting out of college and who are going through the same decision-making process that you went through, and they're about to go through their own odyssey. What do you tell them? What do you wish you would have known when you started the painting business that you now know?
Yeah. So I can't stress enough just the lesson that my professors tried to convey to us about, getting your feet wet, learning what life has to teach you before becoming an entrepreneur. I'll tell you, I know that there's some young entrepreneurs out there who are going to say, yeah, Mike, whatever, I'm smarter, I can do it. But honestly, in hindsight, I just wish I had done that. Even if it had been for 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is, to really go out and get in the business world. Because I'll tell you something, the job that I got after I closed down the painting business, a couple of years after that, maybe a year and a half after that, I got a job and worked at a job for 4.5 years in a construction company. And I learned more in that 4.5 years about running a business than I did in all 15 years combined of learning from mistakes. So learning from people who know how to do it the right way or a right way is so much more valuable and expedient than learning by mistakes.
In other words, as much as you think you can pull it off, and maybe you can, go learn from others, apprentice yourself if you have to, but you will benefit from their mistakes and their failures and their knowledge and their successes a lot more efficiently than having to go through those things yourself, right?
You said it much more eloquently than I did, but that's exactly the message I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you've been a realtor and the head of a real estate business for how many years?
Got licensed in 2008 as the market was crashing. So 12 plus years running a team. And what's interesting, Alex, is I've got some young guys on the team right now. One of them was with me for about 6 months and came to me and said, "Hey, Mike, I'm thinking about going solo." And I saw myself in him, and I told him that. I said, I think you can do it. You can do it. But let me tell you this, and I basically tried to convey that message that you can do it. You're going to stumble a lot more than if you stick with me for a little while longer. So I want you to consider sticking with me, and here's what that looks like. And he eventually did. I think he talked to his father, who gave him some good advice, and so he's stuck with me, and I think it was the right choice for him. But yeah, so now I'm taking the same approach. I've got young people working for me, mentoring, my mentees, and I'm trying to give back that knowledge so that they can have successful careers, hopefully with the team for a long time. But should they decide to go off on their own one day, I think they'll be better for it.
Yeah. It reminds me of, gosh, what is the guy's name? He wrote the 48 Laws of Power. Do you know the guy I'm talking about? You ever read that book?
No, you're so well read.
No, Robert Greene is his name.
Okay.
And he wrote another book called Mastery. And he talks a lot about how every great, like, we talked about the uncommon of the uncommon, like that 0.1%, all of the greatest leaders and greatest business people that we know all started out being apprentices to somebody. They had these great mentors. And they did it while they were young. Some of them did it even in their later years, but every single person, to a man or woman, had somebody that they worked for almost nothing, just to learn from them. And then they were able to take those lessons and those experiences and then parlay them and then build on them into things that even those guys couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what you're talking about here, just learning from people who have gone through it already.
Yeah. Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, perfect example.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. I'm not shy at all about admitting, as I do in many of these podcasts, that I do these kinds of interviews as much for myself and in as self-serving a way as any other reason. I learned a lot from you just now, Mike. So I thank you for sharing your story and for letting me drag you through that emotional hell that you went through back then all over again. So thanks for putting yourself on the chopping block there, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I wish I could say it was my pleasure, but yes, it was a little painful.
Yeah. Right on. All right, Mike, thanks again. Folks, thanks for listening. We are going to catch you next time. Be well. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we thank you for listening. And remember to check out the Gertzberg Law Firm. Whether you are starting, running, growing, or transitioning a business, or if you need to create or update your wills, trust, or estate plan, our team will give you an incredible level of personalized attention and a passionate commitment to meet your objectives. We are veteran-owned, and our award-winning lawyers have the highest ranking from Super Lawyers and Avo. We have also recently received the coveted Weatherhead 100 Upstarts Award for a second year in a row, and we are among the first Ohio business law firms to offer our clients a non-billable alternative on every single matter we handle for them, and opt out of the billable hour. What we are most proud of, though, are the many things our clients rely on us for. We successfully defend them in court, but we also help them avoid the courtroom with our Cover My Six service. We protect their assets through good estate and succession planning, and we assist our clients in many non-legal business services like recruiting and business development. We want our clients to feel confident in their choices and to help them resolve any issues or potential problems quickly and efficiently so they can get back to what they love, running their businesses. More than just litigators, we are trusted advisors, problem solvers, and growers of businesses. Let us help you and your company. Call us or find us online to learn more. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.